Hello guys, happy Tuesday. My name is Veronia and in today's video, I'm sure most of you already know, we are going to be setting our budget for March. So if you're new to my channel, this is something that we tend to do every month. And for some reason, you guys like seeing our budget for the month. So I'm going to continue to do them until you get bored. So what we're going to be doing is looking through our budget. There have been a couple of changes as well. So I did hint that in our last budget update for February. So yeah, let's just get on and see what our budget is looking like for the month of March. So here we have our monthly budget template. And of course, as a reminder, this is something that you can also access as well if you do like the look of it. It actually includes a net worth statement, a sinking funds calculator, and then you also have the choice between getting a monthly budget template or a weekly budget template. So if you would like to get your hands on this template, I will of course link it in the description below for you. So as always, let's get started with our total income, and this is actually where we have a significant change here. So in terms of our income, if you're new to my channel and you don't know, we currently receive income from my husband's 9-to-5 job, and I don't currently work at the moment. So all I'm really doing is taking a break, and I'm also starting my business as well. So I do take a little bit of money out of my business, but that gets reinvested a lot more into other investments like coaching programs and also business expenses. So in terms of our income, there is also a slight change because you can see that sinking funds have also been allocated as well as part of our income. So let's talk about that and I'll catch you guys up. So what's basically happened is I was having a discussion with Yinka, my husband, and we were just really kind of sitting down and thinking about the future sinking funds that we're going to need to prepare for this year. So if you've been following me for a while, you will know that we weren't necessarily putting money into sinking funds yet because we actually had quite a lot of sinking funds set up, like car maintenance, clothes, presents, and things like that. But when I was talking to Yinka, I realized that actually there may be other sinking funds we might need to pay for this year. And so I was then getting a little bit of anxiety because I was like, we haven't prepared for those sinking funds, so we need to do something about it. I mean, one example was the fact that we had gone to the dentist, but after the dentist they basically said that we may want to have a deep clean with our teeth later on during the year, which is obviously going to cost money. And so when I was thinking about it, I was like, we haven't necessarily prepared for that, and I know that Yinka wants to go to the dentist relatively soon, so I was kind of then getting a bit anxious about knowing that there are going to be other sinking funds coming up. And of course Yinka does things like rugby, plus he also has work things that he now needs to pay for, and so I was just kind of thinking we need to sort out our sinking funds, because if not, I don't want to get to the point where now within the month we then have to pay for these expenses and it pretty much just messes everything up. And so what we decided to do is actually use some of the savings that we had, which we were using that to save up for a future investment, but actually take some money out of those savings and separate that out and basically say that that money is going to be used for our sinking funds. And so that's exactly what we did. And I actually wanted to talk about that because I really wanted to stress and show you an example that sometimes when it comes to, you know, dealing with your money and figuring out what you want to do, you want to make sure that the decisions that you're making is comfortable for you. So in our case, yes, we were saving up for a future investment, but if that was a detriment to actually having money set aside for our sinking funds, so paying for those expenses that we're probably going to need to pay for whether we like it or not, well then that was going to have a negative impact on us, because what it would essentially mean is that we would then have to either find the money from somewhere, or we would really have to just cut down on all of our other spending and use that money for sinking funds. Whereas the other option is just delaying, you know, your savings for your future investment, but then using that money, making sure that your sinking funds are paid for. And for me, I just felt so much more comfortable doing that, because then it means that I don't need to think about any of the other expenses we have going on during the year, and essentially any other money we make, we can then start pulling it towards our savings and investments. So I really wanted to share that story just to show as well that things can change and it's okay. You know, give yourself grace if things change and you maybe have to adapt with some of your financial goals. That is okay. Again, it's personal finance for a reason. You just want to make sure that you are comfortable with everything and you are confident, because for me, I'm a lot more comfortable and confident knowing that our sinking funds are sorted for the year. But as you can see, in terms of our budget, what we're going to be doing is just allocating a small amount every month, just for me to show you an example of what kind of sinking funds we have, but also it allows us to really think about what we need to prioritize first and figure out if there are any other sinking funds we may want to add. So hopefully that makes sense. But as you can see, we have about £200 that we have now allocated towards our sinking fund for this month. So later on in the video, we'll go through exactly what that's for. And if you want to learn more about prioritizing prioritizing your finances and figuring out when you should be saving up for sinking funds versus other things, then definitely check out my money management guide, because essentially what I do is just walk through the key steps that I took to not only be able to manage my money so that I can sort out what to prioritize, but also to start growing my money through investing as well. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. I will link it up here for you and in the description below. So let's move over to savings and investments. So with this, you can see that we did currently have some money as well to invest. So we have decided to allocate £75 towards Yinka's stocks and shares ISA. And if you don't really know what that is, it's basically just how we're able to invest in the stock market. We haven't put any money in my ISA for now because I've been spending most of my money on coaching programs by investing in myself. I've got a couple of months just to prioritize that first, but once that's all paid out, then any other extra money I make in my business will then go towards things like investing in the stock market. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. And most of you will also know that I invest through my coaching programs separately from my business, and so it's not going to be reflected in this budget. But at the moment, £75 is what we've allocated to Yinka's investments. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Plus, I'm sure you know, it's free. Then next up, we've got our essential bills. So again, these are pretty much fixed costs. I mean, they haven't necessarily changed. So in terms of our rent, we are paying £1,050 for rent, £50 for water, £62.86 for electric and gas. That is probably going to change because, as a lot of you will know, that these prices have really been increasing. So we'll see in April how much we'll need to pay, but at the moment it's still £62.86, £145 for council tax, £29.60 for broadband, £158 for iCloud. And then when it comes to our SIM contract, we both have the same. So £12 for Yinka's SIM contract and £10 for mine. And with our SIM contract, we actually use Voxy for that. And so that includes endless social media data as well as unlimited minutes and text. So if that's something that you're maybe interested in, definitely check my link in the description below, because essentially we'll both get free vouchers if you decide to use that link. Of course, when it comes to giving, so our tithes, charity and general giving, that's something that we also see as essential. So that is also something we have on our budget. Now moving over to sinking funds, which I'm quite excited about actually, because over the past few months since we hadn't been allocating money into sinking funds, this area just looked a little bit empty. So I'm very happy that now we get to use this again. But in terms of this month, we have allocated our sinking funds into 3 different areas. So the first one, as I mentioned, is just going to be for our dentist. So it's £60 each, and so that comes to 120 when it's for both of us, and so we've decided to prioritize that first. Then also when it comes to Yinka and his work, he has to do this kind of registration and he has to pay for that as well. So we need to allocate money towards that. So we have decided to allocate £70 towards that. I just kind of want to get that out of the way so it's done and dusted. And then another £10 goes towards Yinka's rugby club, because he has to pay that, I think, for his registration or something. So essentially that's around £200 towards our sinking funds, which is maybe around $267. Now let's move over to my favorite part, which is the spending category. So when it comes to spending, in terms of our petrol budget, we have decided to keep it the same as last month. So we have allocated 120 to our petrol. When it comes to groceries as well, we've decided to keep the same amount because we have 4 weeks, I think, until Yinka's next payday. And so for groceries, we have allocated £139. So that's just over 34 a week, which for us is something that we have been doing for the past few months, I would say. I also have a video where we actually go to Aldi and I show you how we've been able to stick to our food budget. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. I will link that up here for you and in the description below. Then when it also comes to toiletries, again, we have kept it the same. So we have allocated £30 towards our toiletries. Again, I am questioning whether we may go over this month because there are a couple of things that we need to buy, but of course we will see and I will let you know at the end of the month. Next up, another £100 has been allocated towards our spending, which is great. So this is something that we can spend whatever we like. We don't question it, we don't judge each other, nothing like that. When it comes to date night, so we've actually increased our date night because there is a specific restaurant that I want to go to, and I think I mentioned that in my previous budget video as well, but there's a restaurant that I really want to go to, and so we kind of just looked at prices and then realized that actually, you know, 60 is probably not going to be enough, 70 probably will be enough, but we may also want to buy a takeaway as well during the month. So we've decided to allocate 80. So I will be interested to see how much we end up spending, whether we'll spend the full 80, I'm not too sure, but I thought 80 would be quite a good number just to make sure that we are still being realistic as well. And then when it comes to personal care, so usually we will budget 40. However, we have seen that prices have been increasing thanks to inflation, and so we've actually budgeted 44 for personal care, which is fine. fine. Yeah, so as I'm editing this, I realized that there were a couple of things that I missed out. The first one was actually our gym membership. Well, my gym membership, because as I mentioned, I think in my previous budget video, that I now have a gym membership that I'm paying for monthly, and so that is $21.99. So that has been allocated on our budget. And then also we have another £10 going towards miscellaneous. So that's if anything happens that we haven't, you know, allocated or we've forgotten about, £10 has been allocated for that. And then of course we had some loose change at the end, and as many of you will know, we actually use a zero-based budget, and so that just means you give every single penny a name, and so the rest of the money we just allocate towards our pennies jar, and that's again just a mini emergency fund in case things come up and we need to spend money on that as well. So in total, in terms of our spending, it's around $649, which is probably around $869, so slightly more than last month. But as you can see, part of that is because prices have been increasing in terms of inflation, but also part of that is because of date night, since we do really want to go to a nice restaurant as well. So I'm actually not too fast, and I think it's still quite a good budget for the month. And of course, if you realize that you don't tend to stick to your budget very well and it's impacting how much you can maybe save or invest towards your future financial goals, then I do offer one-to-one coaching as well. So I'll essentially help you figure out how you can stick to your budget whilst being able to spend your money and also save and invest your money too. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. You can book a free interest call with me. I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, are you looking forward to your budget for the month of March? I do post every Tuesday and Friday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on Friday.